chose destruction. They incited rebellion and anarchy, and paid the price.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. I fear something terrible has happened.
That's how the story starts out in Star Wars Squadrons. Hey guys, Axial GT here. After the announcement of Star Wars Squadrons, I definitely had reservations. I mean, it's an EA game.
EA Games!
Give me your wallet. But my inner Jedi and Force user wannabe just couldn't shake the idea of wanting to get back to the days of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. It's been a long time, and I have very fond memories of staying up to the wee hours of the morning enjoying me some Star Wars space combat. So let's take a look and see if egotistical EA, could have lightning strike twice and actually come up with a good game like Jedi Fallen Order, and not load it with loot boxes and microtransactions. And if you go on to enjoy the video, throw it a like and subscribe for future Axial GT content. Okay, enough jabbering, let's get on with it. Star Wars Squadrons has two modes, the single-player story campaign and the multiplayer. We'll start with the single-player story. Now I won't be spoiling the story for anyone, other than giving a basic gist of it, and the overall goal. There are two sides to every story, and Star Wars Squadrons is no different. Of course, you have the Rebellion and the Empire. As the story progresses, you will ping-pong back and forth, playing both sides. And what about that basic gist? Well, the Rebels are developing their own ultimate weapon, Project Starhawk, an awesome new battleship. Of course, the Empire catches wind and dispatches spies to learn more in hopes of defeating this weapon. That's the basics. You learn more details in both faction hangar bays as you talk to your teammates. As a side note, when you're out of your ship and talking to your teammates, you begin to realize this game must have been designed for VR, as your character is locked in place. Not really a drawback, just something to keep in mind going forward. The story campaign itself will take about 6 to 8 hours to complete, depending on your playstyle and how fast you rush through things. So if you're in this for a long drawn-out story, you might want to look elsewhere. This story mode, while interesting at some points, drags on in others. It's mainly a glorified tutorial to give you the rundown and nuances of each of the ships you'll get to pilot. And while there are 8 ships to fly, 4 on the Empire side, and 4 for the Rebellion, it's really more like 4, because you're really only flying 4 different types of ships. The only real difference is the aesthetics between the Empire and the Alliance. Now for combat. I played Star Wars Squadrons on PC. Yes, I did play with a mouse and keyboard, and surprisingly it works extremely well. I'll talk about controller, HOTAS setups, and VR in a moment. This game really catches the early vibe of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. You get that sense of accomplishment taking down your first few targets. Now for those expecting a Rogue Squadron or Battlefront 2 Starfighter assault, may be disappointed. This is not one of those games. I don't know if it's the difference in perspective, as those games are third person, and Squadrons puts you in the cockpit in the first person, but this newest iteration of space combat seems a little slower than those games. Not that the game is slow, but your sense of speed is harder to gauge, as you engage your engines to take off to your next target. One of my complaints is the maps. While the graphics are outstanding, after a while the maps get kinda dull. It would have been really cool to enter the atmosphere of some of the planets you fight around, to do some bombing runs, or to play hide and seek amongst the clouds as you hunt, or if you were being hunted. I just think a map like that would have changed the monotonous parts. Next we'll dive into multiplayer, because that's what most people want to play. And I will say, besides a few bugs of players getting what looked like stuck on space junk, this rarely happened, but I did want to mention it. Multiplayer really shines. 5-on-5 dogfight mode, I had a blast. And then getting into the fleet battles was loads of fun. But keep in mind, capital ship battles drag out for a while. Some battles took between 30 and 40 minutes, as the war waged on, and a lot of back and forth. The only reason I mention this is for those who want to jump in for a quick match, may be better suited to stick with the 10 to 15 minute dogfight mode. What's really cool is your heads-up display. These are not just static objects, they actually mean something. Like you have your radar, and your engine, shield, and firepower adjustments, and your speed indicator. It really does make you feel like you're really inside of a cockpit of an X-Wing, TIE Fighter, or what have you. Now here comes a summary. Now this game for me, as it is a 6 out of 10 for the non-VR mode. Now I did play this game after it was patched, to where they fixed the HOTAS dead zones, but I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I just don't think there's a lot here. Not everybody has a VR headset, and what you see is what you get, and according to the developer, there will be no more content added. This game here was actually really hard for me to score, because this is going to be a real niche game, and I consider myself a hardcore Star Wars fan, and I love the space combat. It does capture the feel of the old X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter game, but for me it boils down to price. Yes, I know this is a $40 game, it's not a $60 AAA title, I understand that, but there's still not really a lot here, and it doesn't take long for it to get old. The longevity of this game will be in the multiplayer, but for those who don't have VR or have no intention of playing VR, Star Wars Squadrons is a solid space combat flight simulator, but it gets old pretty quick. Virtual reality is where this game shines. You really do feel like you're flying through space, taking on your enemies, but even in VR mode, there's still not a lot of content here, and multiplayer only has 2 modes to fight in, which I think will hurt the game in the long run. This, in my opinion, is a game that you wait for it to go on sale. It's a fun game, but a $20 to $30 price tag, somewhere in that ballpark, is what I'd wait for, where I can see casual players picking it up and playing for about a week or so. It's the hardcore fans that will stick with it, but I will keep tabs on Star Wars Squadrons to keep you up to date on the fixes for the game. But be sure to tell me what you guys think. I'm always interested in what others have to say. And don't forget, I'm doing a Q&A video, so any questions, gaming, or tech related, be sure to put them in the comments below. But if you enjoyed the video and found it informative, throw a like on it and subscribe for future Axial GT content. I really appreciate you watching. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and join my Discord server, both linked in the description. But until next time, friends, I am out of here. You all have a good one.